Have you ever felt, in the silence of your own home, a presence that shouldn't be there? As if a shadow crossed the hallway out of the corner of your eye. As if your soul knew a truth that your mind cannot yet name. It is not paranoia. It is not accumulated exhaustion. It is not the fruit of your imagination creating enemies where none exist. It is a sign. And what the spiritual realm has just revealed in these last few days explains exactly why this sensation has been intensifying within you, and why so many of the chosen are waking up in the middle of the night with the same strange certainty that something is wrong inside their own homes. There is a divine tracking happening right now in silence behind the invisible scenes of this transition that has already begun, a spiritual operation that most of humanity cannot see, but which is mapping, home by home, soul by soul, every enemy infiltration that has hidden under the guise of everyday life. And what was located inside your house, perhaps you are not yet prepared to hear. But if you have reached this video, it is because heaven understood that it is time. Think with me, why are there fights that start out of nowhere in your house, for reasons too small for the size of the explosion? Why does the peace you achieved elsewhere evaporate the instant you walk through your door? Why does money come in but seem to slip through the cracks? Why do your children change their behavior without explanation? Why does your prayer, which once rose lightly, now seem to hit an invisible ceiling inside your own home? It is not a coincidence. None of this is a coincidence. There is something or someone operating inside. And what the divine tracking has just located is exactly the point where this infiltration anchored itself. You need to understand one thing before anything else. The most dangerous enemy never arrives by breaking down the door. He arrives invited. He arrives disguised. He arrives in the form of an object, a word, a relationship, a habit, a thought that seemed harmless. And once installed, he takes root in the cracks of your home like spiritual termites, invisible, silent, but devouring structure by structure until your family begins to collapse without anyone understanding why. And most people live their entire lives without ever seeing this, but you, chosen one, have been selected to see. And that is exactly why I have prepared a powerful digital book for you, the manual for God's chosen to protect the family. This digital book is not just a reading. It is the exact map of how to identify the enemy that has infiltrated your home, who he is, where he entered, in which room he anchored himself, and what is the spiritual name of the operation being carried out against your loved ones. It reveals the rules of this invisible game that they never told you about, shows what entities from other dimensions have already confessed about how they act inside the homes of the chosen, and teaches you the step-by-step process of how to cast out this presence and seal every spiritual door that was open without you knowing. This digital book was written for those who have already awakened enough to understand that the reality of their home is much deeper than they were taught, and who are ready to go beyond the shallow answers that the superficial religious world offers. The link is pinned at the top of the comments, but I must warn you, this type of content rarely stays available for long, because what is on these pages challenges narratives that many have an interest in keeping intact, and there have already been real attempts to silence this knowledge before. Do not wait for the right moment. The right moment is now, chosen one, because you did not reach this video by chance. Download it now and leave in the comments, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." This comment is your first act of faith against the infiltration that is inside your house. Now that you have made this commitment, the next truth I'm going to tell you is the final blow against this silent oppression, because up until now, you have only seen the shell. What comes now is the core, and the core hurts. The first thing the divine tracking identifies inside your home is not a giant, blatant entity with movie-like signs. It is something much more subtle, and therefore much more dangerous. It is an entry point, a small, almost imperceptible portal that was opened at some point in your history. It could have been an object that entered your house and you don't even know where it came from. It could have been a phrase said in a moment of anger by someone inside the home itself, an unconscious curse cast in the form of a word, but one that opened a gate. It could have been a relationship your daughter brought in without anyone noticing what was attached to it. It could have been a visitor who left something invisible behind. It could have even been a spiritual offering accepted in another generation that you inherited without knowing. The entry point is the first layer, and as long as it is active, any prayer made inside has a leak. That is why you pray, 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 and the feeling of peace never settles. The spiritual fuel escapes through the hole you haven't seen yet. The second layer that the tracking locates is the operating agent. This is the one who infiltrates. It could be a force, it could be an entity, it could be, in more delicate cases, a real person who carries this force without even knowing they carry it. Yes, pay attention to this. There are people who enter your house and, without any conscious intention, function as a vehicle for that which came to bring you down. I'm not saying every visitor is an enemy. I'm saying there are visitors who came with a mission. And your home, chosen one, is a priority target, because when hell discovers there is a divine calling over a family, it does not act out of anger, it acts out of strategy. It studies, it observes, it identifies the weak point, and attacks through the most sensitive link, usually someone you love who has not yet awakened. And that is why the manual for God's chosen to protect the family. Digital book reached you at this exact moment. It wasn't a random ad, it wasn't a loose algorithm, it was direction. This digital book shows you, in direct language, how to recognize the entry point that is open in your home, how to name the operating agent that infiltrated, and how to execute the complete spiritual protocol of expulsion and sealing. It reveals the most common traps the enemy uses to anchor himself in the homes of the chosen, traps in the form of a gift, a covenant, an inherited custom, a repeated word, and teaches you how to cut each one at the root. The link remains pinned at the top of the comments. I insist, download it now because this knowledge has already been removed from other platforms more than once, and there is no guarantee it will remain online. Comment, I am chosen and I will download the digital book. This simple act already begins to break the web that was set up against you. And now that you have made this commitment, the next revelation will show you the name of the main agent that the tracking located inside your home. The first name that the spiritual tracking identifies as the most common infiltrated agent in the homes of the chosen is the spirit of discord. He has no face. He does not announce his arrival. He operates in the details, in that misinterpreted phrase at lunch, in that tone of voice that sounded different for no reason, in that unjustified suspicion that sprouts out of nowhere between husband and wife, between father and son, between siblings. He is the specialist in turning love into resentment using tiny raw materials. Wherever he anchors, any simple conversation becomes gunpowder. And worst of all, he convinces each person involved that it is the other's fault. He erases perspective, he blinds. He makes people who love each other deeply spend weeks without speaking for reasons that, later, no one can even properly remember. If in your house the fights start out of nowhere and grow too fast, if words said in jest hurt deeply, if there is a heavy atmosphere that appears without explanation in the late afternoon, if you feel irritated inside your home in a way you don't feel anywhere else, this agent is already operating there. And he will not leave with a polite request. He will leave with conscious spiritual warfare. Listen carefully. He feeds on the fight itself. Every argument is a meal. Every unresolved grudge is a bed made for him to sleep in. Every silence kept out of pride is a renewed invitation for him to stay one more day. That is why entire families of chosen ones live in repetitive cycles of conflict, because the agent is being fed by the family itself without anyone noticing. The second name that the tracking locates is the spirit of financial blockage. This one doesn't take your money all at once. It operates by drainage. You earn, but the money leaks. Expenses arise out of nowhere. An appliance breaks in the wrong week. An unexpected bill arrives at the worst moment. Small crises pile up until they consume what came in. And the feeling that remains is the same every month. Everything that comes in slips through your fingers. This is not a financial management problem, it is a spiritual problem. The agent of blockage usually anchors itself in some unfulfilled promise, in some tithe withheld with bitterness, in some word of scarcity repeated daily inside the house, or in some object that carries a spiritual mark and is exposed where it shouldn't be. Where he operates, prosperity comes in through the window and leaves through the back door. The third name, and this one requires courage to hear, is the spirit of spiritual slumber. This is the most sophisticated of all. He does not attack you, he lulls you. He makes you feel that everything is fine, even when nothing is. He makes your prayer grow cold without you noticing. He makes spiritual reading become a boring chore. He makes the corner of the house where you used to seek God become a forgotten area. He does not destroy with war. He neutralizes with sleep. And when the chosen one sleeps spiritually, the greater attack can already enter without resistance, because the watchman of the house is dozing. If you feel you have lost your fire, that your devotion has cooled, that what once moved you now bores you, it is this agent. He puts you in automatic mode to neutralize you, and here is what no one told you. These three agents rarely operate alone. When divine tracking locates one, usually the other two are right there with it, in layers. One opens the door, another holds it open, and the third enters to take up residence. It is a mechanism, and the only way to break a mechanism is by understanding every part. And that is exactly what the Manual for God's Chosen to Protect the Family. Digital book breaks down in details that no shallow pulpit will teach you. It maps each of these agents, the spirit of discord, the spirit of financial blockage, the spirit of slumber, and reveals the specific signs of each one inside the home, the most common anchoring points, and the breaking protocol for each of them separately, because trying to expel all three with the same generic prayer is the reason so many people fail year after year. This digital book was written under spiritual direction exactly for chosen ones who have already understood that superficial religion isn't enough and who need the real rules of the invisible game being played inside their own homes. The link remains pinned at the top of the comments. I have been warned more than once about attempts to take down this material, because what is in these pages takes power away from operations that depended precisely on your ignorance. Download it now. Chosen one. Comment: I am chosen and I will download the digital book. This comment is a spiritual record. It is a declaration. It is your signature on the contract of protection. And now that you have signed, I am going to show you the heaviest truth of all, the one that completely changes how you see your own home from now on. The heaviest truth is this: not every infiltration came from the outside. Some came from the inside. Some came with the blood. Some came even before you were born. There is a layer of divine tracking that goes beyond the present time. It crosses generations, and when it crosses, it finds things. It finds agreements made by great-grandparents that were never undone. It finds spiritual handovers made by grandparents in exchange for healing, prosperity, or protection in moments of despair, handovers that had a price, and the price was charged in the following generations. It finds words cast by figures of family authority. This family will never prosper. This family is cursed in love. In this family everyone dies young. Words that became decrees when no one broke them in time. You inherit DNA. You also inherit a spiritual contract. And until that contract is located, read, and broken in the name of heaven, it remains valid, even if you never signed it. Have you ever stopped to observe how certain patterns repeat in your family? How your mother faced exactly what your grandmother faced? How you are living, on another scale, the same financial struggle as your father? How your daughter began to have the same behaviors you had at 15, and that your mother had at 15 before you? This is not genetics. This is spiritual inheritance operating. It is the agent passing from host to host within the same lineage, waiting to find the generation that will finally stop transmitting. And here is the reason for your calling, chosen one. You were designated to be that generation. You are the breaking point. You are what heaven calls a break bridge. It was not by merit that you were chosen, it was by design. Even before you were born, it was marked that somewhere in this lineage, someone would enter with enough spiritual sensitivity to recognize the infiltration, and enough strength to end it. And that someone is you. That is why you have felt this weight since you were a child. That is why you always knew something was wrong, even when everyone said everything was fine. That is why your intuition screams in situations where others see nothing. You are not exaggerating. You are a watchman. And the watchman was placed there to see exactly what others cannot see. But there is a trap in this mission. And this is where so many chosen ones fall. The trap is thinking that perceiving it is enough. Perceiving it is not enough. Perceiving without acting is torture. It is like having eyes that see the fire but hands that cannot move to put it out. Many chosen ones live in this limbo. They feel everything, intuit everything, know everything, but they were not instructed on how to act. And this gap between knowing and acting is exactly the space where the infiltrated agent laughs most. Because while you only perceive without executing, he remains hosted. Knowledge without a tool is a hostage with a map, and that is why so many chosen ones suffer for decades, even though they have felt from the start that something was wrong, because no one ever put the tool in their hands. Let's get to what matters. How do you identify today, right now, with what you have if your home is under this infiltration? There are signs that divine tracking always confirms when they are present. They are not mystical signs. They are everyday signs. But observed together, they form the whole picture. Sign 1. The house does not rest you. You leave tired, you return tired, you sleep inside it, and wake up even more tired. The place that should be a refuge has become a drain. A house where God dwells restores. A house where the agent dwells drains. Sign 2. The room that feels heavy. Every infiltrated house has a room where the oppression concentrates. Usually it is where the last great conflict happened, or where a specific object was kept, or where someone in the family went through something painful, and there was never a prayer of healing in that space. You know which one it is. When you think of it, your body already gives a response. This room is the anchoring point, and until it is sealed, the whole house suffers. Sign 3. The recurring dream. Chosen ones with infiltrated houses often have repetitive dreams always inside that house, always with the sensation of being chased or of a snake or of an unknown figure invading. A dream is not a cinema of the mind. A dream is a briefing. It is heaven showing you in code what is happening on the plane you cannot see while awake. Sign 4. The prayer that doesn't rise. You pray inside your house and have the sensation that the words hit something. But when you pray somewhere else, on the street, in the car, in a church, at someone else's house, the same prayer flows lightly. This is not your fault. This is a spiritual ceiling. There is something hosted there blocking the channel. Sign 5. A sudden change in someone in the family. A person who was one way and changed behavior without apparent reason, who suddenly became irritable, who distanced themselves, who started making choices that didn't match who they always were. This is the most painful sign because we want to attribute it to a phase, to work, to stress. But a chosen one knows how to read beyond that. A sudden change without a visible cause has an invisible cause. It always does. Sign 6. The object no one asked for. At some point, an object entered your house that came without a clear explanation, a gift of strange origin, a travel souvenir someone brought without you asking, an inherited item whose history no one knows, a piece bought in a place that dealt with energies you didn't know about. Objects carry things, especially an object that came with intention, even if the intention was from someone else who isn't even around anymore. Sign 7. The impossible financial cycle. No matter how much you organize, plan, or save, at some point in the month, something unexpected always happens that wipes out the effort. This is not bad luck. Bad luck doesn't have a schedule. A spiritual blockage does. If 3 of these signs are present in your home today, you need to stop treating this as routine. Your home is being worked on spiritually, and the work is not in your favor. But there is something that needs to be said with all strength now, chosen one. None of this is bigger than you. Repeat that. None of this is bigger than what lives inside you. The agent that infiltrated your home only has the power he found, and he didn't expect to find you waking up. The rule of the invisible game is simple. The enemy operates in the dark. The instant you turn on the light, half of his work is already undone because he loses the invisibility that was the basis of his strategy. And you turned on the light when you started looking for answers like these, when you started perceiving that something was wrong, when you started seeking to understand what no one in your family understood before. The light is already on. Now it is time to execute. And executing has an order. You can't start at the end. You can't just start breaking things randomly. Divine tracking has a method. First, the entry point is identified. Then the agent is named. Then the anchoring room is located. Then the breaking of generational contracts that sustained the hosting is executed. Then every door that was open is sealed. Then the entire house is consecrated under new authority. Skipping any of these steps is leaving a residue, and residue is an invitation for another entity of the same frequency to move into the place of the one that left. A house swept without being consecrated becomes a house doubly occupied. This has been written for millennia and few remember it. Look at your house now mentally. Look at every room. Look at every person who lives there with you. Look at the history that those walls carry. Ask your spirit, what here does not belong? You will feel the answer before the mind formulates it. This feeling is the tracking operating inside you. Trust it. You were made to perceive exactly this, and what you are perceiving now, even without words, is the confirmation of everything this video came to deliver. There is one final detail that few chosen ones discover in time, and it is precisely this detail that separates those who break free from those who stay trapped for the rest of their lives. The detail is as follows. The infiltration in your house isn't just because of what you do. It's because of what you represent. You are a carrier of something. There is a promise over your lineage. There is a destiny marked for your family that goes far beyond the current generation. When heaven marks a family with a generational calling, all opposing forces mobilize to prevent that calling from being fulfilled, and attacking the family structure is the most efficient strategy because it destroys from the base. That is why it was no accident that the infiltration chose your home. It wasn't bad luck, it was target recognition. You are a target because you are a carrier, and a carrier who discovers what they carry becomes a force that cannot be contained. The last thing the divine tracking wants you to hear before this video ends is this: you are not late. No matter how long this infiltration has lasted inside your home, 5 years, 10 years, entire generations, there is no statute of limitations in the spiritual realm when the break is executed with legitimate authority. Heaven does not count time to correct what hell thought it had consolidated. In a single night of correct execution, years of hosting can be undone. The agent accumulates time. Authority undoes time. This is the math no one taught you. There are chosen ones who wait for the perfect sign. They wait for the right day, the right moon, the right prayer, the right pastor, the right circumstance, and by waiting, they lose years. The sign is now. The day is today. The prayer is yours. The authority is the one that lives in you. And the circumstance is exactly this. You watching this video, feeling every word resonate where it could no longer be ignored. This is the sign. There isn't another one coming. This is the one heaven sent. Therefore I hand to you once more, and with all possible clarity, the manual for God's chosen to protect the family, digital book. This digital book is the complete material that brings together everything this video only began to open up. The orderly method to identify the infiltration that the divine tracking located in your home, the step-by-step protocol to expel each agent by name, the specific prayers that seal each room, the script for breaking generational contracts that still weigh on your lineage, and the consecration plan that transforms your home into territory impossible to invade again. It is not a generic book. It is an operational manual. It was written with chosen ones in mind who have already understood that they need a real tool and not more empty motivational content. The link is pinned at the top of the comments, not at the bottom, not hidden, at the top in the first pinned comment. I need to reinforce one last time. This material has already suffered attempts to be taken down before, precisely because it exposes operations that depended on remaining invisible. There is no promise of how long it will remain available. Those who delay lose. Those who act receive. Download it now, chosen one. Open the link, secure your digital book, and come back here to leave the comment that records this decision in the spiritual realm. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. This comment is not a formality. It is a declaration of war against the infiltration. It is your name being read aloud in the invisible court. It is your line being crossed off the contract they tried to keep active over your family. The divine tracking did its part. It located, it revealed. It called you here. The next part is yours. And you who reached this last sentence did not arrive by chance. You were led. Every word you have read up to here was recognized by heaven as confirmation that you are ready. Now stand up, act, execute. Your house, your family, and your entire lineage await this decision, and it begins with a click. Let it begin now.